The train rattled slowly through the countryside as the evening sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Inside one of the second-class compartments sat a young man dressed in simple clothes, though the watch on his wrist and the quiet confidence in his posture hinted that he came from wealth. His name was Daniel Carter, the only son of one of the richest businessmen in the city. But today, no one on the train knew that. Daniel had boarded the train alone, leaving behind the polished cars, private drivers, and luxurious offices his father had built. He wanted silence. He wanted space. Life surrounded by wealth had begun to feel like a cage, and this simple train ride was his small escape. The compartment was half empty. A few passengers scrolled on their phones, an old couple whispered softly to each other, and a young mother rocked her baby to sleep. Then the train stopped at a small rural station. The doors opened with a metallic hiss. Several passengers got off, but one person slowly stepped inside who immediately drew attention from everyone. She was a young girl, perhaps 20 years old, wearing worn-out clothes and carrying a small cloth bag. Her hair was messy, and dust clung to her sandals. She looked around nervously, clearly aware of the judgment in the eyes around her. Some passengers frowned. One man muttered under his breath, "Why do they even allow beggars on trains?" Another woman pulled her purse closer. The girl quietly moved to the corner seat near the door, trying to become invisible. Daniel noticed something different about her. Despite the tired clothes and shy posture, her eyes were calm. They carried a quiet dignity. For a long moment he simply watched. The train began moving again. After a few minutes, the girl slowly reached into her bag and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside was a piece of dry bread. She broke it carefully into 2 pieces and began eating slowly, as if trying to make it last. Daniel felt something twist in his chest. He stood up and walked toward her. The entire compartment seemed to watch. "Excuse me," he said gently. The girl looked up quickly, startled. Her eyes widened slightly, unsure whether she was about to be scolded. "Yes," she said softly. "Do you mind if I sit here?" She looked around at the empty seats and seemed confused. "You can sit anywhere," she replied quietly. Daniel smiled and sat across from her. A few passengers exchanged curious looks. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Daniel said, "Where are you going?" The girl hesitated before answering. "To the city." "That's a long journey." She nodded. "I know." Daniel noticed her hands. They were rough, like someone who had worked hard her entire life. "What's your name?" he asked. "Aisha," she replied. "I'm Daniel." She gave a polite nod but didn't seem interested in continuing the conversation. Daniel looked at the small piece of bread still in her hand. "Is that all you have to eat?" Aisha quickly hid the bread behind her bag. "I'm fine," she said, a little embarrassed. Daniel reached into his backpack and pulled out a packaged sandwich and a bottle of juice. He placed them gently on the seat between them. "You should take these," he said. Aisha immediately shook her head. "No, I can't." "Why not?" "I don't take charity." Daniel smiled softly. "It's not charity. I just bought too much food." She studied his face carefully, trying to decide if he was lying. Finally she accepted the sandwich but only after breaking it in half and offering part of it back. "Share," she said. Daniel laughed quietly and took the half. Across the compartment, a man whispered loudly to his friend, "Look at that rich kid trying to play hero." Daniel ignored them. As the train continued its journey, he and Aisha began talking. At first the conversation was simple. Where they were from, how far they were traveling. But slowly it grew deeper. Aisha told him she had grown up in a small village where her parents had died when she was young. Since then she had worked wherever she could, cleaning houses, washing dishes, carrying goods at markets. "Why are you going to the city?" Daniel asked. "I heard there are factories hiring workers." "That's hard work." She gave a small smile. "Hard work is better than begging." Daniel felt respect growing inside him. "You don't beg?" he asked. "Never," she said firmly. "I would rather sleep hungry." The train suddenly jerked as it passed over a bridge. For a moment, Aisha lost her balance. Daniel instinctively reached out and caught her arm. Their eyes met. Something silent passed between them. A connection neither of them expected. Hours passed. The sky outside turned dark. Most passengers fell asleep, but Daniel and Aisha continued talking quietly. They talked about dreams. Aisha said she wanted something simple. A small home, she said. A garden with flowers. And a place where no one looks down on me. Daniel listened carefully. He realized he had never met anyone who valued such simple things so deeply. Finally Aisha asked, "What about you? What do you want?" Daniel looked out the window at the dark countryside rushing past. "I want a life that feels real." She tilted her head. "What do you mean? Everything around me has always been planned by someone else. My father chooses my business partners. My family chooses my future. And everyone pretends to like me because of money." Aisha studied him thoughtfully. "You don't look like someone who is trapped." Daniel smiled sadly. "Money can build beautiful cages." For the first time, she truly looked at him, not at his clothes or his watch, but at the tiredness in his eyes. "Then why don't you leave?" she asked. Daniel hesitated. "I'm trying to figure that out." The train began slowing as it approached another station. A loud voice announced a 10-minute stop. Passengers stepped out to stretch. Aisha stood up too. "I should get some water," she said. Daniel followed her onto the platform. A few vendors were selling snacks and tea. Daniel walked toward a stall to buy 2 cups of tea. But while he was paying, something happened. 2 rough-looking men approached Aisha. One of them grabbed her bag. "Hey girl," he said with a crooked smile. "What are you hiding in here?" Aisha tried to pull the bag back. "Please leave me alone." The other man laughed. "What's wrong?" Scared, Daniel noticed the situation instantly. He walked over quickly. "Let go of her bag," he said calmly. The men turned to look at him. One of them scoffed. "And who are you?" Daniel's voice remained steady. "Someone who's asking politely." The taller man stepped closer. "Or what?" Before things could escalate, a railway guard walked toward them. The men quickly released the bag and walked away, muttering insults. Aisha looked shaken. Daniel handed her the tea. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "Thank you." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Aisha said something unexpected. "You didn't have to do that." Daniel shrugged. "I wanted to." She looked down at the cup in her hands. "Most people pretend not to see. Most people are cowards," Daniel replied. A faint smile appeared on her face. Soon the train whistle blew again. Passengers began returning to their seats. Daniel and Aisha climbed back into the compartment. But something had changed. The distance between them had disappeared. They talked more freely now. They laughed. They shared stories. And somewhere during that long night journey, Daniel realized something surprising. He was falling in love. Not because of beauty. Not because of status. But because Aisha's spirit was stronger than anyone he had ever met. Morning light slowly filled the train. The city skyline appeared in the distance. Their journey was almost over. Aisha looked out the window nervously. "This city is huge." Daniel nodded. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" She shook her head. "I'll find something." Daniel thought for a moment. Then he said carefully, "If you want, I can help." She turned to him. "How?" "I know a place where you could work." Aisha raised an eyebrow. "You're offering a job now." Daniel smiled slightly. "Maybe." The train finally pulled into the central station. Crowds rushed everywhere. People pushing, shouting, moving quickly. Aisha looked overwhelmed. Daniel picked up her small bag. "Come with me," he said. She hesitated. "Daniel, I don't even know you." He looked at her seriously. "You trusted me all night." "That's true. Trust me one more hour." Something in his voice convinced her. So she followed him. They walked out of the station. Outside, a long line of luxury cars waited. Drivers in uniforms stood beside them. Aisha stopped walking. Her eyes widened. One of the drivers suddenly rushed forward. "Sir, we've been searching for you all night." Aisha looked at Daniel in shock. The driver bowed slightly. "Your father is furious. The entire company thought you disappeared." Aisha's voice trembled. "Company?" The driver gestured toward the massive black limousine. "Sir Daniel Carter, the heir to Carter Global Industries." Aisha slowly turned toward him. You're a millionaire's son." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Actually, a billionaire's son." Her face went pale. "You lied to me." "I didn't lie," he said quickly. "I just didn't tell you everything." Aisha stepped back. "No wonder everyone listens to you. No wonder those men walked away." Daniel shook his head. "That's not why they walked away." But it's who you are. For a moment neither spoke. Finally Daniel said softly, Aisha, none of that matters to me. But she looked at the limousine, the driver, the expensive world surrounding him. It matters to the world. She slowly took her bag back from him. I think our journey ends here. Daniel felt panic rising. Aisha, wait. But she turned and began walking into the crowded city. Daniel stood frozen beside the limousine, watching the girl he had fallen for disappear into the crowd. And he had no idea that the next time they met, the entire city would be talking about it.